All right, we, as you can see, have about a minute before SEL is supposed to start. My guess is that it's going to take a couple minutes to get started. But this is the first time I ever get to do a live reaction of a video from Star Citizen. Usually my react videos don't go up on the day of because I have to go to work. Normally I would leave for work around now. So yeah, kind of an exciting moment, a little look into what full-time content creation might be like. So pretty excited for that. But yeah, this one is supposed to be on master modes. And the reason why I'm really excited for this one is they talked about master modes for a while. They talked about lowering the speeds of ships for a while in Star Citizen. And today they're going to kind of have an opportunity to touch a lot more on that and take questions from the community on that a bit more. So the more we hear about it, the better is how I look at it. But it looks like we have a 5-second countdown from here. So let's see if they actually like go straight into it. I never get to see these live. So let's see. Nope, this is like a SaltEMike stream. I used to have a timer as well, and then this is what would happen. So eventually it just, nothing happens, and it's, yeah, everybody just waits. I think I had a 30-minute starting screen this morning, so yeah, apologize for that. Oh, not bad, not bad. Not bad, jumped right in.
Hello, everybody.
There he is.
Welcome to another episode of Star Citizen Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and Star Citizen Live is where we take an hour out of the end of our week and we chat with our CIG developers and staff, talking about the folks and the way that we make our video games each and every week. On today's show, we have members from the vehicle feature team, Richard Towler and Yogi Klatt on to discuss a follow-up to their recent CitizenCon presentation. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it this week. Rich, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. It's great to be here. It's a great set. It's my first time on here, so...
It's your first time with the new talk show setup, right?
It's great.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yogi, you're joining us from Frankfurt. Say hi.
Well, from my work office, yes. Practically from Frankfurt. Not quite Frankfurt, but yes. Hi.
Is it as cool as my spaceship?
No, I don't think so. All I have
Wait,
is like
he's added a new thing to his head.
There's nothing spacey here.
But you do have the Pico Yoda. Show me the Pico Yoda real quick.
Oh, Pico Yoda. Well, I've got
showing this.
Pico. So there's Pico, right? And there's Yoda, and they're good friends, and they're swapping like clothes and all that. So yeah.
Right, so Yogi was showing that off before we started the show. So let's jump into it. We are at CitizenCon this year. We did our typical vehicle feature experience segment where we talk about the continuing evolution of our flight combat, and this year we announced master modes, which was a pretty dramatic change to the way that our single seat ships, our dogfighters, whatnot, are going to handle in the verse. It's currently in testing right now under the Squadron 42 branch, without rehashing the entire presentation. For folks who maybe haven't seen
Let's touch on the points that we didn't understand or whatever, right?
Who wants to take it?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So master modes is basically our way of fixing the combat in the game, but also allowing the ship experience and the ship roles to kind of fulfill themselves. So early on in the combat, we tried several things which the community knows about. We tried to patch on things to help combat, to help fix it, and
so it needs
none of them really works. So we looked at what's the fundamental problem with the kind of combat and the ship geometry that we have in the game right now, and the common denominator was speed. But we didn't want to come up with a way which was, right, let's just blanket cap the speed, because if you go too fast, it breaks the game.
Yep.
We just didn't want to do like an overall arching kind of cap, because there's still so many things you do in Star Citizen beyond combat. You spend a lot of time traveling from A to B, and the distances we have in the game are crazy. We travel millions of kilometers all the time in the game.
I do want to clarify, when you say speed, you're saying high speed.
Yes, high speed.
Too much speed.
Yes.
Because I think from a layman's perspective, from an outsider's perspective, for those of us who watch racing and watch combat movies like Top Gun and everything, speed is more speed seems to be a good thing. It seems to be the thing that makes stuff exciting, makes stuff visceral. Everybody likes, bobbing and weaving through canyons as fast as possible. But you're saying too much speed actually hurts the combat experience.
Yes, it's terrible.
So if you're traveling very quickly, the distances you cover in that amount of time become really large. So if you're having a dogfight with someone and you're flying at 1,000 meters per second, within a very short amount of time, you could be 3 or 4 kilometers away from your target if you turned around, and then you're flying back toward each other, and then you basically repeat the action, and you just end up firing at the nose of your opponent. And that's not really fun, because you don't get, it makes it really hard to balance, it makes it really hard for the weapons to make a difference, the different types of weapons we have in the game. So the goal for this was to bring the combat closer, and to make it much more about kind of outmaneuvering your opponent. So if you can get the edge on your opponent and you're trying to do this and that, move around each other, there's going to be key moments in this where you get an advantage and you can use the distinct weapons you've chosen, your special loadout you've chosen, and those things will be an advantage, but also be disadvantages too. But we want it to be about those moments where you really engage in combat and it becomes about outmaneuvering your opponent rather than this kind of slingshot kind of nose-on-nose combat we've kind of been used to.
And so we're doing this by introducing what master modes are basically 2 different operational states for the vehicle. Yogi, why don't you tell us what the 2 operational states are? What are the 2 master modes?
So the one state is basically your combat mode. We're still talking about whether it's should be like standard control mode or actual just combat mode. This is the mode in which you do the majority of your gameplay in. Like you're gonna do all the combat
this is all
stuff.
the preface stuff.
You
We know all
mining
this stuff already.
in that as well.
At least they've shared.
And the other mode, which you swap your ship into, it was called QCM in our presentation recently. We're just gonna call it NAV mode because it's more descriptive.
NAV mode. Okay.
Name for it. And this one allows you to use your quantum mode, and it allows you to unlock the high velocities, but it makes your ship very, very vulnerable in terms of there won't be shields or weapons working during the time. And basically that is the idea to what Rich just alluded. We're separating these 2 gameplay systems apart from each other. So you can either choose to be high performant and dangerous, or you can be fast, right? And travel and navigate around the verse, but you can't do it both at the same time.
So that's where we are currently right now in the Squadron 42 branch. But like you mentioned before, that we've known about this issue for a while. We identified this issue, a while back. Folks who have been watching our broadcasts and seeing you on shows over the years are very familiar with hearing this refrain that we got to fix speed. What are some of the things that we tried before this that didn't work? Like take me on a journey. What were the other things we tried to fix before we got to master modes?
So we tried nerfing things based upon the speed of the ship. So we tried some stuff with shields, I think, at the time, and just trying to make the tuning work as well. It's we looked at what we needed to get from the ships as well, and we just couldn't. Nothing really felt right in what we were trying to do. It just felt like we were solving one problem over here, but it was creating another problem over here, and that's the real difficulty with this problem was we had to come up with something what. I'm not going to say it solved everything, but it solved the majority of the issues without really causing another problem, which was the kind of loop we got into before with changing.
I'll turn the noise off that
you
guys
the shields
hear. Sorry
work
about that.
And the weapons and stuff. We just, we were always creating another problem with what we were trying to solve, and that's something we really, we definitely think we've avoided with, the master modes.
I saw a comment on Reddit just a day or 2 ago about somebody was saying that master modes aren't even in Squadron 42 yet. They're not actively in testing. They are in Squadron 42. They are actively in testing. They are working now.
Yes. And we've been testing this for months now. It's been actively in the game. We've been play testing ourselves on our own team, but we've also been testing we've also been put out there, to the general studio as well. So we've definitely been in a really good feedback loop, and we're kind of really excited about that because the internal results for us have been really good and really positive.
Just so folks can get a timeline in their heads, for all the folks who make their streams and their videos and everything, about how long ago did how long ago did the idea for master modes happen?
I think we're talking a good 1.5 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 years.
I think it was. We started to really kind of realize we were in that kind of loop of problems. and we need a way out of that problem. So then we started discussing what can we do. The basic early ideas were like, well, let's just not go very quick. But then it's like, well, we stop the A to B travel being fun and the speed being fun, because the speed is fun. It's really important for the general game. It's really important for racing as well, that ships can go quickly, because racing needs to feel like a challenge. So we started kind of just sitting down and going, right, how are we going to make this work? Because we've got this problem. If we limit speed, we've got this problem. What's the overarching solution to this?
So you said a year and a half ago. Was this a eureka-like moment? Is this one of those things where somebody was just in a meeting and they're like, holy crap, I got it? Or was this a contested issue? Was everybody on board at first, or how did this come about? Walk me through the history of this. What was this like when this was coming up?
It was interesting because we were never going to be able to stop the high speeds in the game. So we knew we had that problem. And I would say it was a sort of a eureka moment, but also we faced some challenges trying to get this through as well. So it's kind of like, yes, we've got a really cool idea, but we've got these problems to solve. So,
what was the problem? I mean, you had a problem getting master modes into the game approved? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yeah, it was more like just because it's such a major change to the game, we had to convince people it wasn't going to break racing, it wasn't going to break man, it wasn't going to break all the other systems we have in the game, because it's so fundamental to the way ships work.
Oh, interesting.
Because we literally saying we've got a combat mode.
We could have had this
where
earlier.
These systems work.
Is what that says.
We've got
to me.
navigation mode where these systems work, and it's such a fundamental change to the game. It has to be approved by so many people, which is never easy. Because everyone's trying to look after their features, which is the right thing to do. So it was definitely a challenge trying to convince other teams as well that this is going to be the best solution for everyone for the game moving forward.
And I have to imagine a part of the reason why it's not immediately into the persistent universe, because it has to go through all this testing with all these other gameplay features you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's quite a challenging feature to develop, because one, it's going to squadron first, so it's a single player focus first in terms of getting this through. But we've also had to to move it to the PU, it needs to be fully developed for the multiplayer, and also due to the resources, we have to, we are dependent on the dam streams as well, and because of the squadron focus, the dam streams have been prioritized, and it's where this fits within that as well.
What's the testing been like, Yogi?
Testing? Well, as Rich said, there was like no eureka moment, right? Like usually when we develop like stuff like that, we're going step by step in our iterative processes.
Has a stutter, so does he.
It was easy to identify
leave the fucking guy alone and listen to what he's
combat
saying.
Works a lot better simply by
every time we
limiting
watch
the velocities ourselves, right? Like suddenly like the geometry and so on looked a lot better. So when you say testing, it actually covers quite a lot of time from like checking what do we do with the velocities, how do we actually limit the velocities when you go above boost and so on, right? Because what never felt good was, for example, just boosting to your maximum SEM velocity and then being stuck in that maximum velocity in all directions was one of the problems why combat felt stale, right? Because you couldn't just like it doesn't allow you any interesting tactics. So and so we slowly went and like adding stuff like the post boost or the above SEM boost boundaries and all that, making sure that the boost is applied in a non-spheric way, but it's actually more egg-shaped. So you basically when you boost backwards, you burn a lot more energy than you go forward, which just forces you to go to your target and turn around, and all these things like we just went through step by step. I mean, it's not like we're like living under a rock or so. Like we read and watch YouTube videos of like so many backers.
Yogi's so
players,
active.
I should say. And there's like hours and hours of like dogfighting analysis, and we looked through it all, and like a lot of these points were actually true. So so we kind of like build our requirement list out of that, and then we just try to go there step by step. And testing is basically we have testing slots every week. Sometimes like last 2 weeks were horrible in this regard because the builds were just like crashing on some other parts. But I mean, this happens. But we just test the game every week with our PET friends. So that's like Bayer's team.
Mhm.
And then we just went to there, and we knew we were on the right track when at some point we were like, it was like a couple of months ago, we were like just fighting with master modes around, and one of the PT guys was critical about one specific aspect. It wasn't really important, right? And then I was a little bit insecure and just asked, but do you like the master mode system in general? And they were, oh yes, of course we like it. Yeah. Right. So this gives us like enough confidence to know that we're on the right track. And like the process itself for the testing works, right? We just like slowly go step by step to the solution that we would like to see.
I'd like to get into more detail.
That's some background. That's some how we
enough
got
of the
here.
lore.
Let's just dive into some of the specifics about stuff.
Thank you.
Since the presentation, folks have had a lot of questions. We've seen tons of questions in Spectrum and those YouTube videos and the Twitch streams that Yogi was just talking about. We've seen this come up in conversations and stuff. So one of the big ones that I've seen is the switch between the modes themselves, because it can't be too easy. If you switch back and forth on a dime, there's no reason to have the two. Part of what makes the two dynamic is this transition between them. So let's talk about that transition. How long are we talking? Is the length of time dependent on different ships or different ship types? And is the length of time something that can be one day adjusted through the use of components and tuning and stuff? What are we thinking here?
So there is a time difference. It is ship based, but it can also be component based as well, because you've got the shields going up and down. Because we didn't want you'd be able to press a button, doom, gone, and you're just in different modes. Because we want the player to make that key choice when they're in when they're in the master mode for combat, for example. We want them to be in that combat mode because they want to do that thing that they've chosen to do. Mm-hmm. But there's consequence to that, and it's the same with flying navigation mode without the shields. There's a choice to that you can go fast and you're just doing your A to B stuff as Star Citizen, and you don't want to get involved in combat. So there is that consequence of you can't just press a button and it's instant. So if you go from combat mode, for example, to navigation mode, your shields will have to go down, and then to go back, your shields will have to go back up. But it's not an instant thing, and it will vary depending on it will vary depending on the components as well.
Cool.
That adds so much tactical choice, though. It's now during fights or during attacks, you're being raided by a pirate or whatever. It's not just flip a mode and get out. You have to determine when the best time is going to be. You have to know your ship and precisely how long it's going to take your ship versus their ship to make these switches, and then it opens up the door for tons of customization with the ships between the different components and the tunings and such, so that we like there are many like it, but this one is mine. It's going to allow people to fine tune their ships.
I mean, you could say it that way, or you could also call it impossible to balance.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and that's the great thing about this.
It's going to be really hard.
The play choice. And that's something we're really keen for. Is like we provide the underlying system, but we provide the choices within that as well, and that's really key for us. As a gameplay team, is players have those choices. Because people play the game for all kinds of different reasons. There's some people like to go out there with all with all e-guns blazing, for example, and they can do that. But if they do that, the other players are going to know that they're in that mode, and they're all guns blazing. So it's a disadvantage to that, because they're going to be more aware that that person's in that mode.
Do we know what happens if you switch modes at super high speeds? Like if you're in nav mode and you're traveling at the fastest speed possible, and then you suddenly switch over?
So you slow down very aggressively, and your face almost comes off.
Promise?
Expand style.
Yeah, but it's going to be a very aggressive it's going to be a very aggressive slowdown from that speed. And that's another thing. That's going to be a critical choice. If you have to do that high speed, there's going to be a reason that you've done that. But there's going to be a consequence to it.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's actually quite interesting, because like when we tested that first, the decelerations we got were like up to like 50, 60 Gs, something like that, right? So that's obviously nothing that you can survive easily, right? But we didn't see this effect because our GeForce tuning doesn't react to like decelerations that are taking that short amount of time. So basically nothing happened. But what we actually want to achieve is like when you do an unhealthy, like
Verstappen
if you flip
survived
the switch too
59.
fast, and maybe even like take into account that you might have like ice ouchies, right? Then this is supposed to like knock you out, right? But that specific part is not in, but it is planned so that you need to prepare when you actually want to slow down. So you cannot just like single like click a flip and then flop back to SEM or so. There will be consequences for that.
Well, again, that's part of the reason for the switch to dev focus on Squadron 42. The idea is you can hammer these things out and you can develop these further there, and then when they make their way to the PU, whenever that is, hopefully they'll have things like what you were just talking about. I want to ask about racing, because there's been a rather renewed focus on racing. We added the Snake Pit in the last patch. In 3.18, we've got 6 brand new community racetracks that are being added. We've got the new timers in the UI and the gateways. Folks who follow the public roadmap, shout out to Jake, know that there are changes and improvements to Arena Commander, especially the racing coming there. So there's a lot of new racing stuff coming in Star Citizen.
No one cares about racing. We want actual relevant mechanics.
Nav mode.
That's not true.
I was going to ask a question.
So you don't care about racing.
Are we considering, or would we consider a third master mode specifically for racing? Something that would get us the speed and the maneuverability without any of the weapons, the shields, stuff like that? Because it doesn't seem like, I don't know if either one of these ones that we're talking about seem totally ideal for racing, but maybe that's just me. I don't know.
No, it's a good point. So, and it actually came up in it actually came up from basically from one of our playtests. Is what happens to racing, because the speeds that we were hitting for the actual speeds of combat were probably just not enough to make racing feel exciting.
Yeah.
So, and then it's actually had like a fundamental impact on the choices we've made with the design for master modes, is to make sure that racing works. So we've got boost now, which works outside of the actual combat mode. It might work a little bit differently, but we're going to have boost outside of the combat mode now, and that's come specifically from racing and the needs of racing. Because I say, we're building lots of different worlds now where racing is possible, and we're actually doing a lot more support for racing now to build it officially within the game, because it's come from the community. They're the ones making all these interesting levels out the worlds that we build. And now we're going, right, we're going to start making this as part of the actual game. So we have to support this. And one part of this
like to see racing ships
big process of
tuned
master mode
differently.
was the roles, and we want the racing ships to be racing ships. So they're going to be very. They're going to go very quickly still. They're going to be light, they're going to be agile. But you're not really going to want to do combat. Even if they come with weapons, you're probably not going to really want to take them in combat. But they're going to but the balance for us is making sure they're quick enough to escape, but there's still that risk there in combat.
All right, so we might get some of what I'm talking about through components and tunings for racing-specific ships.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then the boost change that you were talking about.
Hopefully.
Okay.
There's a bit more to it though, right? Because like one of the things, so the SEM mode is supposed to be the high performance mode that you're in, but like racing doesn't work well when the velocities are too low. And there are actually like some sequences from the Squadrons team as well, and where they want like racing like structures, right? So we are looking at this very deeply.
Bro, I think they should just make a racing
The thing
mode.
that might probably change, or what we're currently testing there, is whether or not the
Formula 1 cars
capacitive
have different
systems
engine
have a little
modes.
bit
Fuck
of a
it.
different power output. So where you can, for example, regenerate your boost pool in SEM within, maybe 10 seconds or whatever, right? It will take considerably longer when you are in the nav mode, but it just like frees really like a lot of more potential to do fast racing. So you basically you select, do you want to go fast and have like take care of your boost pool, or do you want to like risk going into the slower speed but then get rewarded with a higher boost regeneration? It will be along these lines. This is currently in testing. This is actually the thing we wanted to check last week, where the builds were busted. So we'll like no definitive answer how that will look, but we'll figure it out. It will just be part of the normal like testing iteration.
Yeah, I imagine that the challenge is still going to be the same, though, that the more speed tools you put into SEM for racing, people are going to attempt to use them
Exactly,
during
which is
dogfighting
why it needs to be
and stuff.
component
So
and like
it's-
ship based.
That's why I guess in my brain it seems like, oh, there should be a
It
third
can't have
master
normal
mode for
guns on
racing
there
and
because
stuff
the
like that.
power
But,
is all taken up by
I
the
trust you guys who are the
engines or-
engineers and the
Fucking
designers.
make it up, who
and stuff like that.
cares?
So
So far we don't see that this is necessary. What we likely will do is just like make race a little bit more flaky compared to like comparable dogfighters, because right now, for example, the M50 and the PU is a really, really good dogfighter. This is not intended, right? So there has to be some downsides to that. You cannot be like, we always have to balance like the defensive, offensive, and agility requirements of every ship, and you can't have a ship which is good at everything. So and then we'll see how that goes. But I would expect that like the combat effectiveness of racers in the future will decrease.
Good.
Not saying they're useless.
I like
but
to
they
hear
will,
that.
I mean, these are racers. These are not brawlers, right? Like
I hear you.
I like to hear that.
So,
Some people don't. I like to hear
Since we
that.
revealed master modes at CitizenCon, you mentioned you're watching the YouTube, watching the Spectrum and stuff like that. What kind of feedback have you seen so far?
We've seen a lot, both good, but also there's a lot of questions,
Yeah.
and I think that's the main thing is
And we haven't
there's been a
answered
lot of
any of them
questions
yet.
about how
And we're half an hour into
how
the show.
does it affect this? How does it affect this? And what you're doing to combat this problem, which the community think is going to happen because of combat modes. But we've been doing a lot of testing to make sure that we don't just fulfill our own prophecy of going, right, we'll fix this. So the testing has also been kind of outside of our little remit a little bit, which is we don't just want to reinforce our own ideas. We've play tested this on the basis that what a player's feeling, when they actually play master modes.
Excuse me.
So that's been a big focus of ours. And I think it's going to be difficult to answer a lot of the questions
Okay.
until we start showing it working and we actually show the results. Because that's what we're really excited about, is we're excited about the results from this. And what we've seen internally has been really positive.
But you sound like
things
you
are
already
much closer.
have results.
And the difference which we want in the systems, both in terms of the components and the
If I
weapons
was to
on the
ask a
ship,
question, why can't you show
and
the
the style of
results
ship
now?
you have, and making much
What's
more of a
stopping you?
difference in those in those key moments. But that's just something that we're just going to have to prove out.
Right. No, I can already see the response to what you just said is, well, then put it into the PU and let us see it. And let us,
I'm not
experiment.
saying let us see it.
It's going to stay in Squadron 42 for a while, just so it can do all the
Squadron
internal
42
testing,
is
so that it can be very focused. We talked about it in the DCC thing, so you can focus on these specific ships and get these done before you have to expand it to
Squadron
all
42.
of the ships of the PU.
Yeah, and that's the big thing for us is this is a lot of work. So like releasing the PU, it's a massive feature for us because it changes almost every single component in the game. It changes every single ship in the game as well, from both a ship performance perspective, so to make sure that ship is within its performance window, but also its health as well, and just how it behaves in the game. We have 100 ships now. You can fly in the game. And that takes a lot of testing and a lot of tuning to do.
It's going to be like a year before we see
and
this.
also we've got a lot of multiplayer testing to do. We've got to make sure it looks correct so the players understand the master modes on the UI. So there's a lot of work to bring this feature together. But we've got the fundamental feature together in terms of S42 now. It's in there. You can change all the speeds. But that's on a very limited amount of ships and on a very limited amount of components right now. So to get it into PU is a lot more work, because we don't just want to release this like work in progress and say, right, this is on like 5 ships right now, go try it. It's just not something we can do because it's so fundamental to the entire component structure we have in the game.
And you just confirmed that there are only 5 ships in Squadron 42.
No.
Oh, come on.
true.
No. Just to add to this point, right? There are also heavy downstream dependencies, because right now, most of the master mode UI, for example, is beautiful coda art. And if you ever saw coda art, it's not, well, it's very simplistic, right? And it doesn't.
It's wonderful, Yogi.
It doesn't respect.
Your artwork's amazing.
It does respect the aesthetics that certain other people in the company would like to see. So if we could, like, it's functionally working, right? It's but it wouldn't be fun at the moment in the PU, because A, we only have tuned a couple of ships for it, and B, like most of the UI or of the of the nice UI is missing.
I think
So,
at this point they need to find a
and
way
there's a
to
couple of other
show
things in the
some
PU as well,
more.
which don't add up yet. Well, because for example, travel distances, we
Talk a
likely
little
would
bit
need to
less, show a
travel,
little bit more
or
from this point
tune them
forward,
slightly
maybe.
different for squadrons versus PU. Because in the PU you're gonna visit, like you're gonna freely jump from planets to planets. That's not strictly always given in the frame that squadrons gives you, right? So
A
it will be a
video,
while until players can see it.
arena
But
commander with
when
only
we're
5
ready,
ships.
we're not like throwing it probably right in. We will try to test in like within the Evocati groups and so on to get feedback whether or not it's working in the PU, and then do adjustments before we release it to the wider
Okay,
public.
so they'll do tests in Evo.
So it'll be a
Okay.
while before it comes to the PU. We're just about out of time. We're going to let you go and move on to the next half of the show. But before we do, any
What's the
last
other
things
half?
you want to leave the Star
this
Citizen
it?
community with? Any last words you want to say? Last niblets they can hang on to while they wait?
We're really excited for the players to get it out. You know, I do understand the frustration hearing that it's not going to be immediately, you know, in one of the next releases, but it'll be worth it. And I hope we can kind of, you know, keep, you know, kind of revealing more and show more of the actual real world results of this in the game for us, because that's, you know, because we're really excited about it. It's just the fundamental amount of work it's going to be is a lot. But yeah, you know, and
We learned
yeah, you know, yeah,
almost
you know,
nothing.
and also thanks for the support. You know, we do read a lot of the feedback, and we do watch
We
a
learned
lot of
there's
the
nav
videos.
mode
and,
now.
you know, not just the streamers, but we watch a lot of videos that people just share in the game as well. You know, that you know, players are having a great time. You know, so you know, we do spend a lot of time watching that stuff.
I'm sorry, one last question. I asked you this during the filming. We've been several months on. I asked you the simplest question, like, do we finally have it? Do we really have it? Is this really it? I'm going to ask you again. Has your answer changed? Is this it?
This is it. This is everything.
All right. All right, so Rich, Yogi, thank you so much for taking your time to be here on Star Citizen Live. We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, somebody we haven't seen in a while. Stay tuned.
I don't like this Star Citizen Live format at all. I'm gonna turn down these things. I don't like the Star Citizen Live format if this is what it's gonna be like. I think Star Citizen Live was really, really good, I believe, last week, where they took backer questions, right? They took questions and they responded to those questions. They were reading the chat. They were very good about that. But then they also went, we're not sure we can answer any of these questions. So why are you there in the first place? What are you doing there? Why are we there? Right? So we learned a little bit about switching between modes. If you do it at a high speed, it's going to be a drastic stop, and there's going to be an effect there at some point, but not right away, and it's not in now. And we learned that they changed the name to nav mode, and that they really want to tune for racing as well. So that, man, like, why even be live if you don't have any intention to interact with the viewers live is a weird one. But I've done podcasts before. I mean, it's more of a podcast like format, but for this specific thing, they did a lot of they just talked about lore for half the time. I thought they were talking to these guys the whole show. They talked for lore for 25 minutes. Maybe responded to some community concerns for 5. That's not good. It's a cover up for no actual update, but it's not a cover up if it's still obvious that there's what cover up are you talking about, right? So yeah, it's just that was kind of a weird one. Is Morph coming in the A2 in this video? It sounds like it. So that was a weird one. The difference here is that I respect the fact that it's going to take a while and that they want to do it right. But I also think that we should point out that I don't really want to hear much more about this if this is how we're going to hear about it. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear much more about it. Here, I'll just take this off the screen so it's not distracting for you guys. I don't want to hear much more about the master modes if they have nothing to say, right? It doesn't really make sense. So, when you got something to show, you got something to say, bring it. And then, I'll be happy to listen. But if they're going to do an episode like that again in the future, I have no intentions of caring. I was really excited for this episode because I thought it was going to clear up some questions that people may have had and some concerns, and maybe get an update and see how it's going now. And well, not a lot's happened since CitizenCon from what I can tell. And yeah, they're saying, hey, we need some UI from downstream. We're focusing only on Squadron 42 ships, and maybe not even Squadron 42 all ships. It sounds like 5 kind of unique types of ships in Squadron 42 right now. So it's still a ways away. And I think we should probably shelf this as far as a conversation point for Star Citizen for a significant amount of time until they're ready to really show some progress. I would be really excited for that personally. This is something I believe in, and this is something I care about as far as all that goes. But yeah, sounds like they're back.
Information during the break that I wasn't prepared for. Joining us on the show right now is someone who perhaps needs no introduction, but we're going to do it anyway. One of the original founders of Cloud Imperium Games way back when. Sandy Roberts. Sandy, how you doing? Welcome.
Thank you.
It's been so long.
I'll give you an e-hug. Yep.
So we lost.
Welcome back to the spaceship.
We just lost
Yes,
30
thank
minutes.
you very much. I'm happy that I can actually be on it this time. Last time you were shooing me off, saying, "Go
We
away."
lost 30
no
minutes
spoilers.
for this, by the way.
So the last time she shows
Master Mode
up, but we were still under construction. And if you follow Sandy on Twitter or other social medias, she's got a rather prolific presence there, and she starts taking pictures, and I'm just like.
I know.
Please,
Like, no.
please.
No pictures.
Not before CitizenCon. Not before CitizenCon.
You know.
And she was like, "Fine, but I have to come back."
Yes. So now I'm back.
Now
You
you're back.
invited me back. Thank you very much.
Well, Sandy likes to leak everything.
What are you doing here? Normally you're based out of the LA studio. That's where we worked together for so many years.
We did.
But you're known to travel a lot in your position.
I am. I travel a lot, and Chris is here all the time. So therefore.
So what brings you here now?
What brings me here now? Well, what day is it today? It's whatever day it is.
Yeah.
Yes. The other day we were we were at the Frankfurt Christmas party.
Okay.
And I got to see the new offices, which are really nice. Really nice. They did a really good job.
I haven't seen him yet.
I don't know a lot of people, so
There are a lot of new faces.
there are a lot of new faces.
We talk about this, how the company has grown to like 800 plus folks, and it's impossible to keep up with all of the new faces. I come in and I'm just like...
I did not know. Yeah, of course, Inez, Brian Chambers, Hannes, who else was there? Oh, Todd moved here. Yep. But a few faces.
I'm so excited to hear about a Christmas party right now.
Wonderful
when
offices.
I could be hearing
Christmas
about
party was
master
great.
modes. Oh my God.
And then we went to a Bar Citizen.
It was a Bar Citizen in Frankfurt, or?
No. We went in Berlin.
Oh, in Berlin.
Yeah, my brain is... Yes, we flew to Berlin, which was fantastic.
I think you you loaded Tom up with a picture before. Do we have a picture of the Bar Citizen in Berlin? Oh, wow, that was a big one.
Where's Cutlet?
It was a big one. We had, we capped it at just over 100 people so that we were able to talk to everybody.
Okay, all right.
He shook everybody's hand. I waved, but he shook everyone's hand. And
Wow.
then we sat at each table. We did a Q&A. We signed lots of stuff, took lots of pictures. It's really good fun.
For those who may not be familiar, Bar Citizens are a wonderful initiative started by our own community to basically gather and break bread and tell tales with other Star Citizens. And then because we'd like, hey, that's pretty cool. If they're local to an office, we would crash over the years. Recently this year, we started the Bar Citizen World Tour. Where we would send CIG staff and developers to all manner of places, cities, states, provinces, different countries around the world, on different continents. You've been to a few of those. How's that been? The Bar Citizen World Tour.
I have. Well, this was actually the first one I've been to in a while.
Okay.
The original one, I don't know if you went to the original one. But it was created by myself and Alexis and Ben, and that was in
Not Joe
2013, I
Rohn.
believe, in Santa Monica.
Interesting.
No, I was not at that
And
one.
that was good fun, and that took off. We did Food Citizen. You came to that one,
That was there.
and
in Food Citizen.
that was a failure.
Sometimes we try things.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try
And they
things.
don't work.
I
And,
never heard of Food Citizen.
But I haven't been to a bar city. Well, actually, I went to the one in Los Angeles. It was sort of
What's her
in the
title?
summer.
I don't know.
In the
She's
summer.
on
Yeah,
the
so
board.
I was gonna
That's
say, I
all we
knew
know, I
this
think.
hadn't been the first one you were
I-
at in the first while. So
Yes. So that was the first one I'd been since the pandemic, and I saw a lot of LA folks I didn't recognize too, but a lot I did recognize.
that's what happens when the project grows.
I
There's
know,
more and more
I
faces.
know, I know. It's not just me and Ben and Chris and Haddock and yeah.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Christmas to the holiday party a little bit. You said you were there with Brian Chambers. I heard that there's a photo of Brian actually smiling.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing, but we were
He
posing.
smiles all
and
the
I guess,
time. What do you mean?
posing for the camera, and I guess Brian wasn't smiling.
No,
and so
Brian
Chris
is
was like,
king
Chris
of
was
the
like,
stoic.
smile, smile, smile. So
And you sent that to Tom too. Tom, do we have that? I haven't seen this yet. A smiling Brian Chambers. Wow.
yes, well, Aaron was smiling because it was snowing. They brought the snow for us, and Aaron had been outside drinking the glühwein, so he was quite happily smiling. But
The what?
and then somebody told me that the secret to drinking glühwein is to eat the almonds. Then you don't get like a furry throat. So I don't know. That was a pro tip. It may or may not work. I didn't try it, but
Anybody who chooses to take that advice and whether it works or not, we indemnify Cloud Imperium Games, Robert Space Industries,
Yeah,
and its
exactly. We
subsidiaries.
take no
Do not
responsibility
recommend
for-
that you
Hot
attempt
red
such a
wine
thing.
with spices.
But maybe it works.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
All right, so on your way here, you passed through Frankfurt, you passed through Berlin.
yes,
Now you're here, though.
now I am here.
So what brings you here?
What brings me here again is the new offices and also a board meeting. I'm on the board.
Okay.
So
That's
I'm
that
on the
big
board, by
quarterly
the way.
gathering where I see all the important
Yes.
people come
Yes.
by and they're just like, Jared,
Yes.
stay in the other room. And I'm like, okay,
Yes.
I'll stay away.
Yes.
Don't scare the board members.
yeah, of course, my daughters joke that it's called board for a reason. But so that's why I'm here.
So that's the big quarterly thing that happens, and it's here in the Manchester office now.
It's here, yeah.
Gotcha. Now we haven't. You talked about the Frankfurt office, the Manchester office. We haven't really shown any of this yet because we want to wait till it's totally dialed in and everything, and all the amazing wall art is up and everything. But because you've been and I haven't, give me your impression of the Frankfurt office. What is it? Is it real? Is it really? I've seen photos of these weird pod
already said it's really
things
nice.
that you can sit in.
They look weird, but they're not weird. I sat in one, and they're like soundproofed little, very comfortable meeting rooms. And you can sit with somebody and take a meeting. I went into the meditation room and took a nap. They have these sort of
What the
banana
fuck is
boat
going on?
cushions, but you can also do other.
I'm sorry.
This
This
relaxation room, play music, do
is
all
like
kinds
so
of
disconnected for me. This is
And I
so
saw
fucking
on
disconnected.
again, we're reference your Twitter here. I saw on your Twitter
We just talked about
yesterday.
how we're not getting
you took a
a
picture of
system
Benoit
in a
and the
spaceship
new sim
for
pod, sim
years.
rig that
and,
we,
and,
that
we're,
we
and we're
built
just
here
talking
in
about how
Manchester.
That's
I
really impressive.
can't.
That. You
I don't
built
know
it?
how to handle
Well, no,
this.
Benoit
No,
built
we-
it. I
he
stood around and
actually
made
built
snide
it?
comments
This is just-
while he built it. But
Oh, well, that
Like,
was impressive.
you're
'Cause
here,
I feel
but
like
we're
I
all
just
down
saw
here.
him in Frankfurt.
This isn't about money
yeah,
or
he did it in a
anything.
day.
This is like,
He
Did it in
yeah.
a day?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
what is going
it's
on?
Benoit.
Yeah.
Benoit, he can do
Yeah, of
anything.
course, of course. I saw the guys having a try. I wasn't too game to have a try. There's so much going on. But
I was just always afraid I was going to kick the pieces and lose them. So we have you here.
Jared's trying
I
to
know
think of a
we've
question
been
to ask.
catching up and,
Like,
and
what
stuff like
the
this,
fuck?
but it is
What
our
is
10th anniversary this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sucker for the history and stuff. When folks have a question here about something from yay old days, they usually come to me and ask, because I've been here for as long as I have now. You're one of the few people that have more tribal knowledge than I do.
Uh-huh.
We're back. I want to ask you about that first day. because this is a conversation we've
The
never had before.
the first day.
First day.
The first day.
You know, October 10th, 2012. You're at GDC in Texas. Is it Austin?
Austin, yeah, we went to Austin.
What was that day
I'm like,
like? Because
is
you know,
so-
you and Chris and Ortwin and like I said, a small handful, you know, Haddock and stuff, have been working internally. It's all been a
usually
secret
reminisce
at
when
this
you've,
point.
like,
You
when
had the
something's
contest thing,
finished.
but it's all been a secret. And
Remember
this is
the
the
good
day
old
you're
days?
finally going to unveil this to the world. What was that like? Tell me a story.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was talking to John Erskine in Frankfurt at the Frankfurt Christmas party, and we
John
were saying
Erskine
when you're really
heads
doing it, when you're
Austin,
really in it,
worked on Ultima Online. Good
it's
guy.
just so you're just on high alert. It's like the lead up to the October 10th. There was so many balls to catch and plates and spinning in the air. That, I mean, we just didn't know. We thought it was going to go well, but we weren't sure. I think, did I tell you Chris was singing? Like, Chris is not a great singer, but he'd called me from Germany. Spoiler alert.
I didn't say it.
He'd called me from Germany, and you know that song Big in Japan? That he was singing Big in Germany badly because all the journalists had brought old Wing Commander boxes and they
Mr.
were
Bum, this
raving
is
about
live.
the
Go watch the
prototype,
video
and he thought
on the channel,
maybe
if you don't want to hear
we
my
have something,
opinions.
maybe it's going to be good, right? Because Sean Tracy, Hannah, they all thought it was good, and I'd seen the prototype. I thought this is something, but you never know. And we'd set up the website, and I was doing everything at the time. I mean, everything. I was his personal assistant, the meeting organizer, dealing with publicity.
The marketing department, as it was.
Everything. I booked Chris into a broom closet in London. We were on a budget. And of course, when he got up to give the speech at GDC and the presentation,
We watched it
and then
today.
we launch the site, it crashes.
Well,
And
in what would become the
Yeah.
hallmark of Star Citizen for a few years.
yeah, I just was like, oh my gosh. It was in that moment I thought, oh my gosh, it's over. It's so done.
You can laugh at it now,
I can
but
laugh at it
I imagine
now.
in it on day one.
It was horrifying. It was all that work, and then you're thinking, oh my gosh, and you're thinking people are going to go away and not come back because the world's so fast and fickle. But yeah, the first 20, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. It kept going.
So we have you say snowball from there. I've got a couple of stats here. I want to see if I can pull this out from the chat. So I mean we now, of course, we've talked about how the company, the company has blown up to 5 studios around the world, 800 800 plus employees. I know I think I had a number here about how many Star Citizens we have, but
Can we
there
get
was
some
over
stats on like the
36
game functionality?
million hours played in 2022 alone. Not
That's
overall,
a
like
good
36
stat.
million
There we
hours
go.
played in just this calendar year, the one that we're still not done with. And it averages to something like, between the players and the things, it's an average of 3 hours of playtime.
A day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it a day?
Yeah, and we're at 44 million now.
We're at 44 million. Oh, okay. Yep.
Come on, Jared,
There's
get
the
on
update.
it.
There's literally, I was reading the old message, and they're like, no, it's changed. So 3 hours a day, at 44 million hours played this year so far. So yeah,
Wow.
it's not bad for a game that is vaporware.
I know. I've played it with the girls. Are we not supposed to say that? You're trolling yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
But
trolling one specific person on Reddit.
I see. Yeah.
Derek's
I play
smart.
it with the girls. I'm not that great. They're so good.
I'm terrible.
I do all the dumb things, and then Mom, you don't do that. You got to take your helmet off before you eat a hot dog. Mom, you gotta. I mean, they're just of course.
One of the dirty secrets we don't talk about is that very rarely are the people who make a game really good at the game that they make. I think there's this weird expectation that if you're involved in the creation of a game, that you must be this excellent player at it. But I've
you
seen
don't have
more
time to
people.
play it.
I'm not talking about Star Citizen specifically. I'm talking about any of the places I work, Blizzard, whatever. It's you spend all this time making it, and then you actually sit down and try to play it, and it's like they're different aptitudes. They're dramatically different aptitudes. So yeah, I was hopeful. I when I got into that sim rig that Benoit built, I completed my first race at New Horizons Speedway ever.
Impressive. Look at you.
Not really impressive. That's just bad.
I guess it depends how you did it too.
So yeah, so we were also so. What would you? I think we referred to you as. What would you call yourself? You're there. You're part of the OG group. We were having this conversation off.
Yes.
Is this original gangster?
OG.
What did you call?
I called it the old guard.
The old guard.
Yeah.
The original guard.
Yeah. Original guard.
The
we
original
could go there.
guard. I don't know. But yeah, those early days of setting this place up. I mean. World record, right off the bat.
Oh,
not too shabby. Not too shabby for a team of only a handful of people back then.
Yes, there was. I mean, it was just so busy. I used to answer customer service tickets too.
I remember.
Yeah, I was talking to Tyler about that in the live stream. I gave people my personal email on Thanksgiving and got 2,500 tickets.
Definitely. The worst leak any of us here in this building have ever been a part of.
Yes, the worst. Yeah.
So we organized the Citizen Cons. The first one, we didn't even have our own.
Let's talk about the first Citizen. The very first Citizen Con, 2013.
Oh, Jared's
that was in
finally
Austin.
something
That
I can
was in
talk about that's
Austin,
relatable.
at the Alamo.
Citizen Con.
And then the after party, again, I was on a budget because we really didn't spend marketing. It was a lot of community and a lot of just putting it together.
Excuse for Ben to watch the Wing Commander movie.
Yeah. So there was nobody there. Like we didn't have our own venue. We were sharing it with some finance guys who were like, "Well, what's Star Citizen?" And of course, we had some backers there. And
So the first Citizen Con is half video game players and half accountants.
Yeah, it was an interesting party. So yeah, the first one, and then we had a couple in. Where do we have the other ones? Oh, the Manchester one with the Concorde plane.
Yeah. The Concorde plane that. Oh my gosh! So that was not my first one, but first one when I was inside, and I'm there. I'm monitoring a chat. Remember chat roll? Who remember anybody?
Yes,
chat roll?
I remember chat
roll. And watching people go crazy. They built an enormous spaceship above the set, and I'm like, that's the Concorde. But it was already there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Citizen Con obviously started very small. And it has grown commensurate with the project all the way till 2019, which was our biggest one yet here in Manchester. Like this, I'm just going to do it. So that was our last one that we've done live. That was 2019. Obviously, we didn't have one in 2020. It was the pandemic. We had originally had one
the new format
scheduled that year for Los Angeles, but the city shut down. In 2021 and 2022, we had virtual events. Internally, we call it Digital Citizen, which is why I said DCC twice in the thing. In case people are like, what is he talking about, DCC? It was an internal term, I'm sorry.
Acronyms.
It's not one that you're meant to hear, but I said it twice, and I'll figure I'll explain it. It's been 4 years, since by
it
next
will
year.
be next year.
By next year, it will have been 4 years since we had a live event. Is there anything you can tell us? Any sunshine? Any hope? Any sliver?
You're like setting me up for.
Well, I figure.
For an inevitable disaster.
They can't get mad at me if you say something.
If I say something.
You say something.
If I say something, well, there is something happening in my
to.
hometown. Not hometown. I mean, where do I live really? But Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Yes, we are going to go back into a physical Citizen Con. Yes.
Next year. 2023.
Yes.
Anything like a date?
Any date? Dates. Oh, you see, I'm not Chris, but soon TM. No.
Good.
In October. But I don't know when in October. But we will do a physical Citizen Con in Los Angeles in 2023 in October. Yes.
Or November.
All willing, and that the world doesn't explode, or Los Angeles decides to do something really weird. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do some space dad here for this. So hi everybody.
Yes, you'll see me there. if
You
it
just heard that
happens.
CitizenCon 2023 has been confirmed for Los Angeles in October of 2023. There are probably going to be some of you who want to rush out and buy plane tickets and book hotels and such like this. I'm going to ask that you
There's no
hold on,
date.
that you remain calm and stuff like this. We don't know if this is going to be the beginning of October, the end of October. Remember, the last physical CitizenCon we had was in November. These things are not entirely within our control. There's the venue and what venues are available and when they have schedules and then all the different third-party vendors that we have to hire in order to put on a big thing. So without knowing that we are shooting for October, but if it ends up being November 3rd or it ends up being
Yeah,
September
doesn't matter.
30th or something,
All that
I would
matters is
just
the plan is
encourage you
for a
to
physical
please
CitizenCon in Los
hang
Angeles.
tight.
again.
Don't book any plane tickets unless you want to spend a month and a half in LA, which I can recommend. You go to Disney World, you can go to lots, Universal. There's lots of things to do, but hang tight. This is more than I expected to get today. So,
Someone in chat, I booked
yeah,
all of LA.
That's exciting, though.
Yeah. Well, we are doing Bar Citizens again, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that the World Tour is kicking off again in January. That too. Is that a spoiler alert? Am I just,
Yes, it is.
am I just now
Throw it on out there. Throw it on
them
out
all
there.
out?
Okay, so the Bar Citizen World Tour 2022, as we've been calling it,
Yeah.
is going to continue next year.
I think so. I heard a rumor that the one that Chris and I went to was the last one for 2022, but we're kicking off in January
In
the
Colorado.
2023 tour.
All right, so we're kicking off
no,
Bar
Jake was-
Citizen World Tour
It's
2023.
not a leak. Jake's
Yes.
doing one in Colorado.
And Chris and I, we're
January.
we'll try to make it to a couple here and there. I'm not sure which ones, but
All right. I'm a space dad again.
okay, yeah. Don't
Remember-
go booking
okay.
every single.
Exactly. So
Jared doesn't know what Space Dad
the way
means.
Bar Citizen World Tour works, you guys decide where to have them.
He
You can
thinks
go
he's
to
our space dad. He doesn't
barcitizen.sc.
get what it
You can
means.
announce your Bar Citizen. You can coordinate your own, and be sure you let us know. Tag us on social media, submit tickets, whatever your communication method of choice is. But remember that while we would love to attend each and every one, that simply is not a logistical possibility. So let us know. Try to give us as much time and notice as possible.
It just
Don't
means,
be
like,
like, hey, I'm
filthy
doing Bar
casual.
Citizen next Thursday, and in
Bad at
Spain.
video
Can
games,
you make
old
it?
guy.
Try to give us as much time as
Sucks at
possible, and
games.
remember to work with your venues. Remember to let the venues know when you're playing them and everything, so that everything is nice and copacetic and everything, so that when we fly people over, everything works and everything is awesome. But yeah, Bar Citizen World Tour 2023. I hope. Can I go to?
The same guy that booked
Well, I
LA
only went
booked
to like
every
one
bar.
this year. Can I go to more? I can go to more.
Oh, Jared, you're going to be at some Bar Citizens. Be careful what you ask for.
I want to go to.
Oh, wait,
I
are you
wanna
really
go to
wanting to
Italy.
say this on camera? Oh,
I
Italy.
want to go. I've never been to Italy.
Ooh, okay.
I'm Italian somewhere. My grandmother was Italian. I've just never been. So, just
There you go.
if anybody's out there doing that, go ahead. Let us know.
Italian community.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all the time we got. Is there? I mean, I'm gonna do a close here, but I feel like the last words should come from you. So Prep. You think about what you want to say to the community here in a minute. For folks watching at home, thank you for joining us on this week's Star Citizen Live.
I don't know why I did.
It was great to have Rich and Yogi on, be able to reschedule their previously canceled show because I got plague and whatnot, but it was great to have them back. And then, of course, Sandy here, beginning to share memories from day one of Star Citizen back in 2012. Remember, if you haven't, check out yesterday's Inside Star Citizen. It was a continuation of the Journey to 4.0 initiative that we began at this year's CitizenCon. These presentations will continue throughout the next year, as the Journey to 4.0 is one that's long and fruitful and is bound to be filled with twists and turns, so we'll continue to have presentations and showcase future developments for the 4.x branch throughout next year in place of some ISC episodes. And then come on back next week for our annual Inside Star Citizen Year in Review 2022, where we look back at everything that, not everything, but most of the big highlights of the Star Citizens year, and a look at what's coming in the upcoming 318. So for Rich and Yogi, I'm Jared, and I'm gonna, we got you here Old school. I'm going to
gonna
throw the
get- we're
last
gonna get me to-
throw the last
to
words to
sign
Sandy
out?
Gardner. Sandy,
Yes.
take us home. This is your. I'm right here. Right here. There you go.
I do want to thank the community for their support over the past decade. It has been awesome, and it's been an incredible journey, and it still is an incredible journey. And the staff, I mean, a lot of our fans have become staff, like Jared. And going to the Bar Citizen, the passion, and seeing Chris speak to everybody, and I'm terrible. I'm going to start crying again. It's the worst. I'm the worst. I mean, it's incredible. I am so proud. Oh, it's terrible. We got to cut
Say
this. We
see
can't
you
have
around the
this
verse.
part
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
video, Jared.
Do this.
Oh my gosh, it's awful. So thank you so much for the support, and we will see you around the verse.
Yeah, all right.
Didn't even have to practice that. That was so good.
Oh my
God.
God, that was terrible.
I don't know what the fuck I just watched.